She had nothing, not even a roof over her head. He had everything: money, power, and a whole city at his feet. But when she gave him her last piece of bread, she had no idea who he really was. How did one simple act of kindness from a homeless girl change everything? Sit back and find out as we dive into this powerful story. This is the story of how a poor homeless girl fed a stranger and discovered that sometimes the person you help might be the one sent to save you. It was a hot afternoon in Lagos. The sun was beating down on the dusty streets. Cars honked loudly. People rushed past each other. Market women shouted. The smell of fried plantain mixed with smoke from old buses. This was the kind of day where everyone minded their own business. And in the middle of all that noise, a young girl sat quietly by the roadside. Her name was Nkechi. She was 22 years old, but life had already tested her in ways most people never experience. Her skin was a deep caramel brown, still glowing despite all the hardship she had faced. Her clothes were old and faded. Her wrapper had small holes at the edges. Her slippers were worn out. She had a small basket beside her, just a few pieces of bread inside and a bottle of water. That was all she had for the day. Nkechi had been homeless for almost 8 months now. She had no family in Lagos, no one to call, no place to go. She slept under the Echo Bridge at night with other street people. During the day, she worked cleaning shop fronts, carrying goods for traders, selling sachet water in traffic, anything to get a few naira. But even with so little, Nkechi did something that shocked everyone who knew her. She shared every single day. If she had 2 pieces of bread, she gave one away. If a child cried from hunger, she would stop and offer something, even if it meant she would sleep on an empty stomach. People called her foolish. "Nkechi, why are you giving away what you don't even have?" One woman once asked her. Nkechi had smiled and said, "Because I know what hunger feels like, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone." The other street people knew her well. There was Mama Kemi, an older woman who sold oranges nearby. She would shake her head every time she saw Nkechi give food away. "This girl, you have to think about yourself too," Mama Kemi would say. But Nkechi would just smile. There was also Brother Femi, a young man who pushed a wheelbarrow for customers at the market. He always told Nkechi, "You're too soft. This Lagos will finish you." But Nkechi never changed. She believed that no matter how little you have, you can still help someone. That afternoon, as she sat by the roadside resting, she saw him, an old man. He was limping slowly along the road. His clothes were torn and dirty. His beard was gray and rough. He looked tired, very tired. He stopped near a food stall and stared at the food like someone who hadn't eaten in days. But he didn't have money. The woman selling the food shouted at him, "Old man, if you're not buying, move away from my table." He lowered his head and turned to leave. Nkechi watched him. Her heart moved. She looked at her basket. She had only half a loaf of bread left. That was supposed to be her dinner. She paused. Then she stood up. "Excuse me, sir," she called out. The old man stopped and turned. His eyes were tired but kind. Nkechi walked toward him and stretched out the bread. "Please, take this." The old man blinked. He stared at the bread, then at her. "My child," he said slowly, "why give me what you barely have?" Nkechi smiled gently. "Because hunger is the one thing I wouldn't wish on anyone." The old man's eyes became soft. He took the bread slowly, like he was holding something precious. "What is your name?" he asked. "Nkechi," he nodded. "May God bless you, Nkechi. May he remember you when you need it most." She smiled again and walked back to her spot. The old man stood there for a moment, watching her. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Nkechi sat back down. Her stomach was empty now, but her heart felt full. She didn't know it yet, but that one moment would change her life forever. Mama Kemi had seen everything. She walked over to Nkechi, shaking her head. "Nkechi, Nkechi, Nkechi, you just gave away your last food." Nkechi looked up at her and smiled. "Mama, the man looked hungrier than me." Mama Kemi sighed heavily. "But what will you eat tonight?" "God will provide," Nkechi said softly. Mama Kemi wanted to argue, but she knew there was no point. This girl had a stubborn kind of kindness, the kind that doesn't make sense to most people. She walked away, still shaking her head. That evening, Nkechi went back to the bridge where she slept. There were about 8 other people who slept there too. Some were old, some were young. They had all become like a small family. When Nkechi arrived, a little girl named Blessing ran up to her. "Sister Nkechi, did you bring food?" Blessing was only 7 years old. Her mother had abandoned her at a bus stop 2 months ago. Since then, she had been living on the streets. Nkechi looked at her small face and felt pain in her heart. "Not today, Blessing, but tomorrow I will try." Blessing nodded and walked back to her corner. That night, Nkechi lay on her piece of cardboard and looked up at the bridge above her. Cars drove past. The sound echoed in the night. She closed her eyes and prayed quietly. "God, I don't have much, but thank you for today. Thank you for letting me help that old man. Please watch over all of us here. And please, if you can, send us help." She opened her eyes and stared into the darkness. She didn't know that her prayer had already been heard. Days passed. Life on the streets continued. Some days were good. Some days were hard. Nkechi kept doing what she always did, helping where she could, praying when things were tough, and trusting God even when she didn't understand. Then one evening, something bad happened. Nkechi was sitting near a small shop when she heard shouting. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, was crying. A security man in a black uniform was dragging him by the arm. "You thief! You stole from this shop!" The man yelled. "I didn't steal anything." The boy cried. "I was just looking." The security man slapped him hard across the face. The boy fell to the ground. Nkechi's heart jumped. She stood up quickly and ran toward them. "Please, sir, stop," she shouted. The security man turned to her. "Who are you?" "Please, he's just a child. Don't beat him like that." The man laughed. "Are you his mother? Mind your business." "He said he didn't steal," Nkechi said firmly. "Then let him go." The security man's face became angry. He pushed Nkechi hard. She stumbled back. People gathered, but no one helped. The man pointed at her. "If you talk again, I'll arrest you too." Nkechi's hands shook, but she didn't move. "If you want to arrest someone, arrest me. But leave the boy alone." The security man grabbed her arm and dragged her to the side of the road. "You're a troublemaker," he said. "Get out of this area. I don't want to see you here again." He pushed her one more time and walked away, pulling the boy with him. Nkechi sat on the ground, her heart heavy. She had tried to help, but now she had been chased away from the only corner she knew. Brother Femi saw what happened and came to help her stand up. "Nkechi, why did you do that? Now you can't come back here." Nkechi wiped her eyes. "I couldn't just watch him beat that child." Brother Femi shook his head. "Your heart is too big for this wicked city." That night, it rained. Nkechi had nowhere to go. She couldn't go back to her usual spot. The security man had made it clear. She sat under a small shelter near a closed shop, shivering. Her clothes were wet. Her stomach was empty. She looked up at the dark sky and whispered, "God, even if no one sees me, please don't let my kindness die." Tears rolled down her face. She didn't know what else to say. So she just sat there in the rain, praying silently. The night felt so long, so cold, so lonely. But somewhere in that darkness, something was already moving. The next morning, the sun came out. Nkechi woke up stiff and cold. She stood up slowly and started walking, not sure where to go. Her body ached. Her head felt heavy. She walked through the streets like someone in a dream. Then she heard a voice. "Excuse me, are you Nkechi?" She turned around. A man in a neat shirt and trousers stood beside a clean black car. He looked like a driver. Nkechi blinked. "Yes, I'm Nkechi." The man smiled. "Please, come with me. My boss wants to see you." Nkechi froze. "Your boss? I don't know your boss, please," the man said gently. "Just come. You're not in trouble." Nkechi looked around. She didn't understand what was happening, but something in the man's eyes seemed honest. She nodded slowly. "Okay." The driver opened the car door for her. Nkechi had never entered such a clean car before. The seat was soft. The air inside was cool. She sat quietly, her hands on her lap, her heart beating fast. She looked out the window as they drove. Everything felt unreal. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. "Where are we going?" The driver smiled through the mirror. "Don't worry. You'll see soon. They drove through the busy streets of Lagos, past markets, past buses, past crowds. Then the roads became quieter. The houses became bigger. Soon, they entered a street with tall gates and beautiful mansions. The car stopped in front of a huge gate. It opened slowly. Inside was the biggest house Nkechi had ever seen. The compound was wide and green. Flowers lined the driveway. Fountain water sparkled in the sun. Nkechi's mouth fell open. Where is this?" she whispered. The driver parked the car and opened the door for her. "Come," he said. Nkechi stepped out slowly. Her legs felt weak. She followed the driver to the front door. A woman in uniform opened it and smiled at her. "Welcome," the woman said warmly. Nkechi could only nod. Inside, the house was like a dream. The floors were shining. The walls were white and gold. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Paintings were on the walls. Everything smelled fresh and expensive. Nkechi looked around, her mouth slightly open. "This way," the driver said. He led her through a hallway and into a large sitting room. Soft sofas, big windows, a television as big as a wall. Everything looked like something from a movie. Then she saw him, the old man, the same old man from the street, but he wasn't wearing torn clothes anymore. He was dressed in a fine white igbata with gold embroidery. His beard was neat. He sat in a big chair, smiling at her. Nkechi's eyes widened. She took a step back. She felt like she was going to faint. The old man stood up slowly and walked toward her. "Nkechi," he said warmly. "Do you remember me?" She nodded, still confused. "Yes, you're the man from the roadside." He smiled. "Yes, that was me." Nkechi looked around again. "But I don't understand. What is all this?" The old man's smile grew. "My name is Mr. Adalik. I own this house. I own many properties in Lagos. I'm a businessman." Nkechi blinked fast. She felt like the ground was moving under her feet. But you look like a beggar?" He finished her sentence. "Yes, I did. Because I wanted to see something." Nkechi shook her head slightly. "See what?" Mr. Adalik's eyes became serious. "I wanted to see who still has a heart in this city. I walk the streets sometimes, dressed like a poor man. I watch people. I test them. Most people ignore me. Some insult me. Some chase me away. But you," he paused and looked at her deeply. "You gave me your last piece of bread. You had nothing, but you gave me everything you had." Tears filled Nkechi's eyes. Mr. Adalik continued. "Do you know what that told me? It told me that kindness still exists, that there are still people who care more about others than themselves." He walked closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Nkechi, that day at the roadside, you fed a stranger. That stranger owns half this city. And today, I came to feed you." Nkechi covered her mouth with her hand. She couldn't speak. She just stood there, shaking. Her whole body trembled. The tears came faster now. Mr. Adalik smiled. "Come, sit down. We have a lot to talk about." She sat slowly on the soft sofa, still trying to understand everything. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Mr. Adalik sat across from her. He leaned forward, his eyes kind and serious. "I've been looking for someone like you," he said. "Someone with a pure heart. Someone who knows what suffering is, but still chooses to help others. I want to start something big, Nkechi. A charity organization. We will build shelters for homeless people all over Nigeria. We will feed them. We will train them. We will give them hope." Nkechi's tears rolled down faster now. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Mr. Adalik leaned forward even more. "And I want you to lead it." Her eyes went wide. "Me?" "Yes, you. You know what it's like to be on the streets. You know what people need. You have the heart for it. I will give you everything you need. Training, support, a home, a salary, everything. But more than that, I want to give you back your dignity." Nkechi couldn't hold it anymore. She broke down and cried. Not sad tears. Tears of relief. Tears of gratitude. Tears of a heart that had been broken for so long and was now being healed. All the nights under the bridge. All the hunger. All the pain. All the times people looked down on her. Everything came out in those tears. Mr. Adalik waited patiently. He didn't rush her. He just sat there, letting her release everything. When she finally looked up, he handed her a handkerchief. "Wipe your tears, my daughter," he said softly. "Your suffering is over." Nkechi took the handkerchief and wiped her face. Her voice came out shaky. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Mr. Adlik replied. "Just say yes. Say yes to a new beginning." Nkechi looked at him through her tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much." Mr. Adlik smiled. "Good. Now, let me show you something." He stood up and asked her to follow him. They walked through the house and out to the back. There was a small guest house behind the main building. It was beautiful painted cream with blue windows. Mr. Adlik opened the door. Inside was a fully furnished room. A bed with clean sheets, a wardrobe, a small kitchen, a bathroom, everything clean and ready. "This is yours," Mr. Adlik said. Nkechi stood at the door, frozen. "Mine?" "Yes, you will live here while we prepare everything. You will start training next week. I have someone who will teach you about managing charities, working with people, keeping records, everything you need to know." Nkechi walked inside slowly. She touched the bed. It was soft. She looked at the curtains. They were new. She opened the wardrobe. It had new clothes inside. She turned to Mr. Adlik, her eyes full of tears again. "Sir, this is too much." He shook his head. "No, Nkechi. This is what you deserve. This is what everyone deserves. But not everyone gives the way you gave. That's why you're here." That same week, Mr. Adlik called a press conference. Journalists came from all over Lagos. Cameras flashed. Microphones were everywhere. Nkechi stood beside him, dressed in a simple but beautiful outfit that he had bought for her. She still couldn't believe this was real. Her hands were sweating. Her heart was pounding. Mr. Adlik spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce someone very special to you. This young woman is Nkechi. A week ago, she was homeless. She had nothing. But when I met her on the street, disguised as a beggar, she gave me her last piece of bread. She didn't know who I was. She didn't expect anything in return. She just gave because her heart is pure." The room was silent. Everyone listened. Cameras clicked. People leaned forward. "Today, I am announcing a new project," Mr. Adlik continued. "It is called Hands That Feed. We will build shelters across Nigeria for the homeless. We will provide food, education, and job training. And Nkechi here will be the head of this charity." The journalists gasped. Cameras flashed even more. Nkechi looked down, her heart full. One journalist raised her hand. "Sir, why her? She has no experience." Mr. Adlik smiled. "Because she understands. She knows what it means to sleep on the streets. She knows what hunger feels like. And more than that, she has a heart that most of us have lost. If we want to help people, we must let someone who truly cares lead the way." Another journalist asked, "Nkechi, how do you feel right now?" Nkechi looked at the microphone. Her voice was soft but clear. "I feel like God heard my prayer. I feel grateful. And I promise to help as many people as I can, the way I was helped." The room erupted in applause. The press conference ended. The story went viral. Newspapers carried it. Social media exploded. People couldn't believe it. A homeless girl was now running a charity for one of the richest men in Lagos. Some people praised it. Some people doubted it. But Mr. Adlik didn't care. He knew what he saw in Nkechi, and he wasn't wrong. 6 months passed. Nkechi stood at the entrance of a brand new building. It was the first shelter under Hands That Feed. The walls were painted bright yellow. The sign outside read, "A place of hope." Inside, there were clean beds, a kitchen, a classroom, a small clinic, everything homeless people needed to start again. Children ran around laughing. Mothers sat together, talking and smiling. Old people rested on benches, finally safe. Nkechi walked through the rooms slowly. She greeted everyone. She hugged the children. She prayed with the mothers. Her heart was full. And then she saw someone, a little girl sitting in the corner. She looked closer. "Blessing?" The girl looked up. Her eyes went wide. "Sister Nkechi." Blessing ran into her arms. They both cried. "I thought I lost you," Nkechi said, holding her tight. "How did you get here?" "Some people found me on the street and brought me here." They said this place helps children like me. Nkechi smiled through her tears. Yes, it does. And you're safe now. Forever. Mr. Adlik stood at the door, watching her. He didn't say anything. He just smiled. His assistant, a young man named Tund, stood beside him. Sir, you really found the right person, Tund said. Mr. Adlik nodded. I didn't find her, Tund. God led me to her. That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Nkechi sat outside under the stars. She looked up at the sky and whispered, God, you remembered me. Mr. Adlik walked out and sat beside her. You did well today, he said. She smiled. Thank you, sir, for everything. He shook his head. No, Nkechi. Thank you. You reminded me why I do what I do. You reminded me that money is nothing if the heart is empty. They sat in silence for a while. The night was calm. The air was cool. Then Nkechi spoke. Sir, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. That day, why did you really dress like a beggar and walk the streets? Mr. Adlik sighed. He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. I lost my wife 3 years ago. She was the kindest woman I ever knew. She always told me, Adlik, money can build houses, but only love can build homes. After she died, I felt empty. I had everything, but I felt like I had nothing. So I started walking the streets, dressed like a poor man. I wanted to see if people still cared, if humanity still existed. Most days, I found nothing. But the day I met you, I found hope. Nkechi looked at him. You gave me a second chance, sir. I will never forget that. He smiled. And you gave me something more valuable than money. You gave me faith in people again. 1 year later, hands that feet had grown. There were now 5 shelters across Nigeria. Hundreds of people had been helped. Some had found jobs. Some had gone back to school. Some had reunited with their families. Nkechi was no longer the homeless girl sitting by the roadside. She was now a leader, a voice for the voiceless, a light in the darkness. She traveled to different cities, speaking to people, encouraging them, helping them. But she never forgot where she came from. Every time she visited a shelter, she would sit with the people, eat with them, pray with them. She didn't act like a boss. She acted like family. One day, a journalist came to interview her at the shelter in Abuja. The cameras were set up. The lights were bright. But Nkechi sat there calm and confident. Nkechi, how does it feel to go from homeless to running a charity? The journalist asked. Nkechi smiled. It feels like grace, pure grace. I didn't do anything special. I just did what my heart told me to do. But you gave away your last piece of bread. The journalist said. Weren't you afraid you'd go hungry? Nkechi shook her head. I've learned that when you give from your lack, God sees it differently. He doesn't look how much you gave. He looks at why you gave. The journalist nodded. What would you say to people watching this? Nkechi looked into the camera. Her voice was strong and clear. I would say, never look down on anyone. Never think you're too small to make a difference. And never stop being kind, even when life is hard. Because one day, the person you help might be the one sent to change your life. The interview ended. But Nkechi's story didn't. It kept spreading. It kept inspiring people. It kept reminding the world that kindness still matters. And somewhere in his big mansion, Mr. Adlik sat watching the interview on his television. He smiled to himself and whispered, Well done, my daughter. Well done, dear friends. This story teaches us something very deep. Never look down on anyone. That girl you see on the street today might be the woman changing lives tomorrow. Just like Nkechi, many people are not lazy. They just need a little help and someone to believe in them. Also, true kindness is not about what you have. It's about what you're willing to give, even when you have nothing. Mr. Adlik had money, but Nkechi had a heart, and in the end, the heart won. So tell me, what did you learn from this story? Please drop your thoughts in the comments section. I would really love to read from you. You might even help someone else with your words. There's another very interesting story coming up in just a few days. So please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload it. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends and loved ones. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you.